Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Afia Sports Banter Box on Afia TV. Of course, we always enjoy a bit of banter every now and then, and it comes live and direct on Afia TV. The frequency still remain the same: channel 254 DSTV, channel 17 Go TV, and channel 748 Free TV. Welcome, guys. I know that you've had a blessed and splendid week so far, and the week of love. The day of love is just around the corner, which many celebrate. So we love to talk about sports. Sports is the first love of many. And now on the Banter Box, I just want to give you a sneak preview of what we'll talk about. First of all, we are Nigerians here, of course, domiciled in the southeast of Nigeria, Coal City to be precise, 042 Enugu, where things are happening on a regular basis. And we love the fact that the Super Eagles of Nigeria have a very, very upwardly mobile coach in Eric Chelle. But his head is being turned in many respects, and he's also made some statements recently concerning his future. Now, that's not to say that you hold him to what he has said, but it's just pointing out his desires, his aspirations, and everybody has some. But there is a particular area he's looking at that is rather high in the eyes of some. But some others say, hey, off the back of what he did recently in the Total Energies African Cup of Nations, why not? A man can dare to dream. We'll talk about the dream because someone said, I have a dream that one day I'll manage another club. That's just me talking. But we will talk about the dream of Eric Chelle when we return from this break. And the gladiators will lock horns and talk about the merits and demerits of that dream and aspiration of the man, Eric Chelle. After this message, we will be right back. Welcome back to the Afia Sports Banter Box on Afia TV. We are here and we mean business. And when I talk about meaning business on the Afia Sports Banter Box, we want to see violence. If you get what I mean, you get what I mean. There has to be a lot of blood. There has to be a lot of gore. There has to be a lot of bruised ribs, broken ribs and bruised eyes and shattered spleens and all whatnot. But I'm talking figuratively. Those of you who know, who have followed us for this period of time, know what we're talking about on the Afia Sports Banter Box. Now, back to the business for today. First of all, we're talking about Eric Chelle. This is somebody who has been exceptional. He had a modest playing career, playing for clubs that were not particularly up there in the pecking order, the likes of Valencians and the rest of them. And then he featured 5 times for the Malian national team and scored no goal. Well, he was a centre back, so that's no surprise there. But when he turned to management from 2021, he's been managing some different clubs, but the 2 most high-profile sides that he has managed are not clubs per se, but national teams. First, his native Malian national team. He spent almost 2 years in Mali, took them to the African Cup of Nations in 2023 in Côte d'Ivoire. Yes, he crashed out in the quarterfinals at the hands of the eventual champions and host Côte d'Ivoire. But he had an impressive record with 22 games managed for the Malian national side, and then he had 14 wins. And then, of course, he had, I think he had 3 defeats at the end of the day. But with the Super Eagles of Nigeria that he's been part of since the 7th of January, 2025, he has managed just 1 under the number of games he managed for the Malian national side, which is 21 in particular, had the same number of wins, 14 wins, and then 6 draws and 1 defeat. A solitary defeat is what he suffered as Super Eagles manager, which has increased his stock in trade. Of course, under his tutelage, Nigeria has risen from 38 in the world in the FIFA rankings to 26, which is an astronomical rise in terms of FIFA rankings. Now, what I'm trying to say in essence is that Eric Chelle is a man that has a lot of scrutiny on him. The spotlight is showing on him because of what he's been able to do with this national side. And the discussion is right now concerning a comment that he allegedly made recently. He said that he has dreams. Actually, it wasn't a very recent comment, but it was more like reiterating what he's been thinking about for a long time. As a manager, he has dreams to become the first ever African to manage Real Madrid, the Los Blancos. Now, if you check the history of Real Madrid, since their formation then in 1902, they have never been managed by anybody who is African or even African-born. They've never been managed by anybody who's African-born, of course, sole exception of Zinedine Zidane, who is Algerian by descent. But other than that, they've never really been managed by anybody who identifies as African from any of the countries in the continent called Africa. So that is a very lofty aspiration, lofty dream. And To make sense of that and to agree and disagree and to agree to disagree here, we have the gladiators in the house who are going to take one side or the other concerning this dream. Is it a dream or is it a nightmare? And we have here in the blue corner none other than the man who I like teasing, but for some reasons I will not call him a field footballer. Oh, sorry, I said that. Anyway, I'm referring to none other than the self-acclaimed priest of football himself, Femelo Emeka Madueke. Good to have you, Emeka.
It's good to be here.
For the record, I didn't call you a field footballer.
Allegedly, you did not.
We're talking about allegations today. No problem. We can do that. And in the red corner, we have the man who likes his divining tools. He's a divinator. And anytime you bring, my problem with his divination abilities and lack thereof is if you bring arrows, he might just be moved by those arrows. He might be moved by kidneys, might be moved by livers. These are what they use to prognosticate and so on and so forth. But on the more serious note, we have here Divine Onwuka, the divinator, in the red corner. Divine, good to have you.
Thank you. You just have to start throwing bullets at the start of the whole thing. And well, that's why you're playing devil's advocate. So I understand.
Yeah. I mean,
so go ahead.
Unfortunately, I just had bullets. I was thinking of bringing Scud missiles, but no problem. These things will happen.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to talk about this now. Every Chelle has dared to dream. A man can dream. You cannot stop anybody from dreaming. Sure. In fact, dreams are free of charge. That's one thing I love about dreams. But the scary thing about dreams is that dreams have a knack of coming to reality when principles are applied. And the man, Eric Chelle, has not done too badly to warrant the credibility that should drive that dream.
Yes.
A dream of becoming the first African to manage the biggest team in world football in terms of European trophies. I'm talking about Real Madrid, because people will argue and say, yes, the truth of the matter is that the most successful team in terms of trophies won is an African team, and that's Al Ahly, with almost 150 titles. But talking about Europe, no team is more successful than Real Madrid in Europe. And so it's a lofty aspiration, but it's not one that should be swept under the carpet. So I want to take your stand, Emeka. Eric Chelle is dreaming of being the first African to manage Real Madrid. Not Real Madrid Castilla, Real Madrid proper. The main team that is domiciled in the Santiago Bernabeu. So, what's your take regarding this? Does he have malaria, or is it a valid dream?
Well, I'm very glad you had to point it out that it is not Real Madrid Castilla, because many people would be saying that that's the team he's maybe aiming to go for, but it is the senior team, that's Real Madrid, and like we said, his work speaks for him. He has not done too badly as a manager since he began his career as a coach. But let's look at it from this angle. I'm not going to play that controversial card everybody thinks I'm going to play today. But Real Madrid have had a certain knack of managers they look for. There's a particular class of managers they look for. There's a particular league of managers, if I might say, they might turn to when in desperate times. And we've seen it with the selections of managers over the years, down from Zinedine Zidane to Carlo Ancelotti. Now we've seen it with Xabi Alonso. We saw it with Abiola now being appointed as the manager after Xabi Alonso's disappointing season with them so far. Now, down to Eric Chelle. Does he have a chance to be the manager? He has a chance. It's down to one man in particular, and that is Florentino Perez. Does he see the African man as a credible person to take over Real Madrid and drive them to many more successful Champions Leagues, many more La Ligas, and so on? I don't think when you look at it from this perspective of, credibility, that Eric Chelle doesn't have the credibility. There is one factor you have to look at, and I'm sorry to play that card. There is always that African factor when you look at some of these clubs when they are picking. You don't see on a regular basis when you look at the likes of maybe the Real Madrid before Barcelona's. You don't see them bringing or opting to choose an African coach. I'm not saying the African coaches are not good on their own, but I mean, they have a certain class of managers they look forward to. So I don't know. He might be in his right to dream, but I don't know if the man would be selected to be Real Madrid's coach maybe in the next 5 years or so.
Okay, I'm going to come to Divine right now, but if I were to use my deductive abilities and put them into play, I would assume it should be safe to assume that you are indirectly or in a subtle manner accusing the top European clubs of racism. I guess that might be
Allegedly. Allegedly, I am.
Since allegations are the things that are flying around, no problem, we'll bite.
You're really good at playing this
Allegedly.
devil advocate, you know, right?
I have no idea. No. You're the ones that are telling me. I have no idea. I was
I'm
minding my
telling you.
business, and then people called me to play devil's advocate when I don't even like the devil.
Okay.
Anyway, that notwithstanding.
Like Emeka said, you're allegedly good, but go ahead.
Okay, fine. In the spirit of allegations, now let me hear from you, Divine. What do you have to say about the dream of this man, Eric Chelle? He's serious about this, and for the record, Eric Chelle is a top candidate from the information I'm getting right now for the Olympic Marseille job because Marseille are interested in getting his services. He's one of the people that's in consideration. Marseille were wiped recently 5-0 in Le Classique in the French League. They were battered and bruised in Parc des Princes by Paris Saint-Germain, the defending champions of Spain and France. So the fact that his name is even thrown into the hat shows that he's highly thought of in Europe. Madrid may be a step too far for some, but I don't know. That's why I need to get your thoughts concerning that. Is his dream valid? Of course, most dreams are valid, unless you're dreaming of seeing maybe a cockroach that's having sideburns and an afro. I don't know what kind of dream that is. But concerning this dream of being the first African to be the Real Madrid manager, what's your take? Obviously, you're going to go slightly opposite to what Emeka has said, but I need to hear how you want to articulate it.
Okay, here's what I have to say. Like you said before, you can dare to dream.
Yes.
And if you follow the right principle towards achieving that dream, it can be a reality.
Sure.
Nobody's dreaming bad for him or herself. Everyone is dreaming good and having the positive mindset about his or her dream. Now, if he said he sees himself coaching Real Madrid, then it's still possible. We are on earth here. Nothing is impossible. So the thing there is, if he applies, okay, you said he's on the Olympic Marseille radar.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. He's being considered to take the job as the Olympic Marseille head coach. So if Olympic Marseille is considering him and he works hard towards, becoming the coach of Olympic Marseille, then he should have a good record. I'm just trying to know how far he will go. If he works hard in Olympic Marseille and, bring them some level of glory, maybe winning the French League,
Le Championnat.
everything. If he can win the Champions League, if all things are then there is possibility that
Don't you have to be in the
Madrid-
Champions League to win it?
no, that's what I'm saying.
Go ahead, please.
That's what I'm saying. Then there is possibility that he can coach Real Madrid because Real Madrid has this eye. As a matter of fact, if you're doing good in your club, then it's big clubs that will look for you. After Guardiola had a wonderful spell at Barcelona of that era, every other team that was coming for Pep Guardiola were, top clubs. He went to Bayern, from Bayern, he went to Manchester City, and then his legacy keeps, growing on and on. So it's all about him building his legacy. If he builds well in Olympic Marseille, even if he doesn't go to Real Madrid, but definitely a higher club, depending on the kind of career he has in Olympic Marseille, then definitely a higher club like Real Madrid, Barcelona, the giants in Europe can actually come for him, even if it's not Real Madrid per se, but definitely a big shot. He will have a big shot in coaching, one of the European giants.
No, well, his dream is Real Madrid.
Yeah,
That's what I
exactly.
said, his dream. And we have to take him take his claim at face value. I remember a particular player in the English Premier League then, Robin Van Persie to be precise. When he was unveiled as a Manchester United player, he said that the little boy in him had always been crying out. I wonder, was that little boy maybe muffled or gagged when he was an Arsenal player? So sometimes, I'm just saying that football personalities have a way of shifting the goalposts and then twisting their mouths just to, But I'm not saying that it's allegedly. I'm not saying that about Eric Chelle. I'm just saying that for now, Eric Chelle has pointed out what he hopes for, and that's to manage Real Madrid. And like we've all agreed, a man can dare to dream.
Exactly.
So having said that, let's look at it this way. Let me start with you, Emeka.
Okay.
Clearly, it's not like you're outrightly against Eric Chelle becoming the Real Madrid manager, but
Yeah.
you're more of a realist in many senses. You're looking at the potential pitfalls and the likelihood. You're trying to explore the difference between possibility and probability.
Exactly.
It is possible that Eric Chelle could be the manager of Real Madrid,
Definitely.
but it's not probable considering his pedigree or lack thereof. So, but Real Madrid is a club. This is the angle I want to come from, and I need to get your response, if possible, a rebuttal, if you can.
Okay.
Real Madrid is a club that has a massive legacy. Since 1902, when they came into existence, they've always been striving for relevance, and they've established European dominance, 15-time winners of the UEFA Champions League, the European Cup stroke UEFA Champions League. The most successful side is Spanish La Liga, as painful as it sounds to you, but it's the reality on ground.
Sure.
And somehow you're showing a bit of solidarity wearing this jersey. I don't know. I know that you want to maybe maybe you want to scrub yourself with bleach and some other things when you're done, knowing you very well because of your allegiance. Okay, fine. I'm not following you home, so I can't say whether you're saying.
And the bullets keep flying.
They have to. They have no option. This is a banter show, for crying out loud. So bullets have to fly. Now, having said that, Real Madrid have been known to be quite progressive. They have traditional views and principles and policies which have helped them. But you cannot go all traditional and be successful. You need to have a bit of flexibility. Your principles can remain the same, but your practices can evolve with the trends that are going on. That's why I'm sorry to say clubs like Athletic Bilbao, as beautiful as their policy is, sometimes they're held by their hamstrung, by their policy, their homegrown policy.
Exactly.
Nobody that is born outside of the Basque region can play for Athletic Bilbao. So that's their principle there. Even their neighbor club, their bitter rivals, Real Sociedad, don't do that. Even though that's a club in the Basque region. But they are not flexible. That's why you can never really mention Athletic Bilbao for now in top European discussions. The conversation of UEFA Champions League. Atletico Madrid will be mentioned first before Athletic Bilbao. A club like Valencia in their heydays will be mentioned before. That's why they got to the Champions League back-to-back finals in 2000 and 2001. But Athletic Bilbao, because they're a bit hamstrung. So talking about the issue of evolution of practice. Now, knowing the pedigree of Real Madrid, don't you think it would be a good idea for them to explore options and then look for the best? Because truth be told, from Africa, I'm not talking about those of African descent like Zidane, he's of African descent.
Yes, definitely.
And other managers in world football in different leagues that are of African descent are there. You look at someone like Patrick Vieira, he's of Senegalese descent, and a number of other managers. Clarence Seedorf also is actually of African descent, though he's Dutch. Ruud Gullit, the same thing. Thierry Henry, the same thing. But when you check these managers, you check the other things you have to factor in. People who are actually African, who identify as African, who played for African countries and did the best that they could there. Having said that, don't you think it would be possible for Madrid to consider doing that based on the pedigree? We have a good number of very sound African managers. Look at someone like Pitso. Pitso is his surname I keep on trying to remember. The South African who managed Al Ali. Pitso. Look at people like, of course, Eric Chelle is in the conversation being discussed. Look at, there are some managers who are African. Of course, it's just sad that we lost him 10 years ago. The great Stephen Okechukwu-Keshi himself. That's somebody who would have even had a better chance of coaching Real Madrid than Eric Chelle. But Eric Chelle has a chance. So what makes you think that Real Madrid cannot revise their policy and say, you know what, let's give one of the most highly sought after African managers a chance? He can do this because Madrid also has been a safe haven for African players, and some of the best and most technical players that have played in Spain have come from Africa. Look at Samuel Eto'o. He played in Barcelona. He's actually started for Madrid. In Madrid, Real Madrid Castilla, moved on to Mallorca, then moved to Barcelona. And then there are a few others. Emmanuel Adebayo played also for Michael Essien, played in Real Madrid. Federico Canute played for Sevilla, and so on and so forth. So if you had a success story for Africans in Spanish La Liga, why can't we have a success story as far as managing is concerned for Africans? So that's the angle I'm coming from right now. What do you say?
I mean, it will not be a bad idea for Eric Chelle to keep on pushing for his dream and pushing for his ideologies to be the Real Madrid manager. And in respect to Real Madrid changing their philosophies and changing their ideologies, that is remain on the president now of the club, which is Florentino Perez. We've known Real Madrid and their owners and the board to be very strict and, will I say, unflexible when it comes to the principles
They're
of Real
rigid.
Madrid. They are rigid. They believe in the philosophies of old. How it has always been is how it should be. It's like the commandment. You do not change it. Some of these clubs, like you mentioned now, Athletic Bilbao, they are so headstrong on not changing the structure of how the club is built on. And that's the same way you see it for Real Madrid, that's the way you see it for Barcelona. Some of these big teams around Europe, they stick to the philosophies and the principles that the club were built on. But can it be changed? Yes, it can be changed. Now, it is something that the Real Madrid board will have to revisit, have to sit down and look at and say, okay, we've given a lot of European managers chances to be the head coach of Real Madrid. Some have had success stories, some have not been able to get that success story, some haven't done bad. Why not change the philosophy now and give it to an African man, a man of African descent, and see how he goes? Maybe opt for an Eric Chelle, like we have discussed him now with his dream. See the success story, how it goes. Can he win many more Champions Leagues with Real Madrid? Can he further increase the tally in the La Liga standings and maybe catch up to Barcelona when it comes to the domestic cups? But this is something that will have to keep on going back and back and back, because clubs, like I said, are rigid to their philosophies. And until that new ideology of changing the philosophy comes into play, I don't see Eric Chelle maybe getting the nod coming for that job. Like we said, maybe start off with jobs like the Marcel job, as pointed out before. Start off with maybe other clubs like Leverkusen, any big club or many average club that is in Europe right now that is making headways. Do well, have a success story there. Then maybe you have a shout of maybe convincing this Real Madrid side to change their philosophy and maybe hiring you.
Okay, so in your just to rephrase what you're saying, maybe try killing a few lions and bears before you target Goliath.
I mean, you could maybe opt
Okay.
to play for Marcel, coach Marcel, and maybe beat Madrid in the Champions League.
Okay,
That could convince them.
okay, that makes sense. So let me come to you as we wrap up this part of it. You are obviously an ally of Eric Chelle in his dream, trying to you're a bit more direct than Emeka. I get where Emeka is coming from.
Yeah.
He's being very cautious because sometimes the Real Madrid position, the managerial position in Real Madrid could be a poison chalice. And if you're not careful, you could just find yourself digging deeper and deeper and deeper into the quagmire of,
just
of
ask
managerial
Alonso.
irrelevance. But what I want
Also
to
is close.
ask,
Rafa Benitez.
let's leave Benitez. There's a list of names. You have Santiago Solari, you have Rafa Benitez, you have a good number of them. Let's not even get to that. But even Madrid is a club at one point. Madrid had a reputation of sacking you for winning things. Like Fabio Capello can tell you that one very well. I'll get to him in a bit. Fabio Capello won the Spanish La Liga twice with Real Madrid, 10 years apart. 1996, 1997, he got sacked on the last day of the season after he won it. Then 2006, 2007, he got sacked. He beat Barcelona by head to head, and then got sacked after he won it. So sometimes he gets sacked for winning things. This is true. I mean, Chelsea fans should know that very well during the Abramovich period. Now, this is the Banter Box. Okay, yeah. Remember, this is the Afia Sports Banter Box on Afia TV, where banter lives, and banter lives here for a reason. Just know, as I was saying.
Well.
Okay, so and the bullets are not so stray. So now getting to this issue. I mentioned Capello, so let me even write on that a bit to get the point across to you. If Eric Chelle eventually sees his dream of becoming the first African to manage Real Madrid become a reality, or on the way to becoming a reality, there are some potential pitfalls that are there, and that's what we're checking. For instance, you look at, there are some managerial positions that are traditional. It's very hard to find people veering off. And if they do veer off, it has to be for a very good reason. And sometimes it's a gamble, they sit and hope. Look at the England national side, for instance. To the best of my memory, as my memory serves me right, only 3 managers have ever managed the 3 Lions who are non-English. The first was Sven Goran Eriksson. to the best of my day, of blessed memory, the late Goran Eriksson, the Swede. The next was Fabio Capello. I mentioned his name, Fabio Capello, the Italian. And then, of course, the third is Thomas Tuchel. Now, you have to have accomplished great things. Eriksson was a journeyman. I don't know how much he accomplished, but he had many solid teams that he managed, Lazio and the rest of them. Capello, like I mentioned, Capello won the Champions League won the La Liga with Real Madrid 2 different times. And then also, I'm sure Emeka will remember this one very, very poorly. He won, and even you too, because of your, he won Barcelona that they battered and bruised Barcelona in 1994 in the Champions League final under Johan Cruyff, battered them 4-0, a beating that they'll never forget for the rest of their lives. He was the one that masterminded that. He was the manager of AC Milan when that happened. So he has pedigree. If you look back and see the pedigree, you understand that Thomas Tuchel got to the Champions League final back to back with 2 different clubs. PSG, yes, lost to Bayern Munich. Chelsea won it. No, so when you check these things, sometimes you have to check the amount of pedigree you have and what you have won. Your accomplishments might make the board consider your throwing your heart into the ring. So isn't that a potential pitfall for Eric Chelle? As good a manager as he is, we judge most managers not particularly based on their philosophy, but based on their results. What have they won? What have they achieved? And the only thing that Eric Chelle has achieved as a manager is a Unity Cup.
Chanegos.
Yes, with the no, not even Chanegos. Let's not talk about the Chanegos. Don't even go there. Chanegos were obliterated by Sudan, 4-0. Let's leave that. I'm talking about with the original Eagles in a tournament, a mini tournament where they played against Jamaica, against Trinidad and Tobago, and then Ghana. So that's all he has to show. That's all. A what?
A Brentford Unity Cup.
Okay, or let's just say an Inter-House Cup. But that's all he has to show for it. We know how special this man is. We know what he can do. But most managers, most boards of directors in Europe are looking not for what you can do, but what you have done. Because what you have done is a pointer to what you can do. And so far, we've seen only the Unity Cup and then a third place finish, a bronze in the African Cup of Nations. So that doesn't do his aspirations much good. But how do you defend that? Since you are one of his supporters, you want to see him become the first African to be Real Madrid manager.
Okay. I'll say this, just like I said, it's a step-by-step thing. Yes. If he gets into Olympic Marseille, eventually, if that happens, then he has a good career and then so on and so forth, he coaches Madrid, no problem. Now, let me drive back to you mentioning, what's his name? Is it Capello?
Fabio Capello.
Yeah, Fabio Capello. That won Barcelona, won the La Liga. Maybe, just maybe, I'm trying to come from that aspect. Maybe that particular season, Real Madrid's board, whoever was the then president.
I think it was still Florentino.
Okay. The Real Madrid board.
Calderon. I don't think it was him. It was Florentino Perez.
The Real Madrid board, probably back then. Maybe they had given him, how do I say, it's kind of
an ultimatum.
Yeah, exactly. This is normally tell coaches, oh yeah, win this or this happen, that kind of an agreement. So maybe they gave him an ultimatum to probably maybe win the Champions League, or maybe there's a particular target they wanted him to reach that was beyond winning the La Liga that season. So for them, Real Madrid wanted a certain, level of accomplishment beyond the La Liga that particular season. That was why after he won it, they still, sacked him
twice.
So exactly, that's what I'm saying. So
10 years apart.
I mean, if lightning doesn't hit twice.
I mean, the kind of patient lightning I wish for 10 years. I don't understand how much.
It will come with.
No, but sorry to cut you short, but I hope you understand the angle I'm coming from. Because,
I understand.
Because for instance, now, what I'm trying to say in essence is this. Sometimes, if you want a super club, because there are clubs and there are super clubs. Let's tell ourselves the truth.
Yeah, sure.
If you want a super club to tweak their principles a bit or tweak their policy, you have to be exceptional. You have to have an exceptional.
Okay.
Look at Brazil, Seleção. Brazil have never in their history up till recently had a non-Brazilian as their national team manager. But Carlo Ancelotti, who is an Italian, was too good an offer to pass by because he's won 5 UEFA Champions League titles as a manager. When you subtract and you don't even add the 2 he won as a player with AC Milan back-to-back in 1989 and 1990, he's the first and only manager in the history of world football to win league titles in the top 5 leagues in Europe. So obviously, the Seleção, that's the Brazilian Football Federation, must have looked at this and said, you know what, it's traditional to have a Brazilian here, but how many Brazilians have the kind of pedigree this man has?
Exactly.
So that's the difficulty I'm seeing in this defense that you're making for.
Okay. Now let's come to the part of Arbeloa, who is currently a Real Madrid coach. He's the senior team coach.
It's for a poison. But go ahead, please. Arbeloa, that's a Spanish Jimmy Carragher.
I'm sorry, but I have to say it because this is what we are seeing clearly right now. It's hard, it's difficult to say, but we have to say it. If we should ask ourselves, what pedigree does Arbeloa have right now? So now, I'm not even looking at the fact that he was once a Real Madrid player.
He was part of their squad.
Exactly. He once plays for us. I'm not even looking at that. I'm looking at as long as managerial level or managerial.
He's an interim manager.
Exactly. But he's a manager.
Interim.
Still a manager. He's the one telling the boys what to do right now.
For now.
They like we don't know what happened though, but I'm just speaking on what I'm seeing right now. Okay, let's what's his name? Arbeloa aside. Now, if we look at Xabi Alonso, yes, let's not dispute the fact Xabi Alonso had a very good season with Bayer Leverkusen, winning them the
Invincibles.
Yeah, exactly. Unbeaten. Then second season, got them to Champions League, and then I think finished second on the table. If we look at that, I personally did not really see Xabi Alonso as, how do I say it?
Real Madrid material.
Exactly. Because that he won with Bayer Leverkusen, yes, it was great, but not really up to par to say that, yes, he should handle Los Blancos, the biggest team in Europe. As a matter of fact, when he signed for Real Madrid, I actually looked at this and said, it was as if I saw what was coming, actually. I was
you're the divinator now. So
yeah, exactly.
Not surprised.
That's why I'm the divinator. It was as if I saw what was coming. I was like, no, this might not end well. And we saw how it ended. He telling the Real Madrid players to come and mount a guard of honor for Barcelona, and then Mbappe telling his teammates no, not to do that. And they obeyed Mbappe and left the coach. So I was like, okay, this is not going to really go far. And then next thing I hear, Arbeloa is coming in to coach a whole Real Madrid. That you were good as a player. I don't really know how good Arbeloa was, but okay.
I said it's Spanish Jimmy Carragher. What are you talking about?
Okay, that you played for a club doesn't mean that you're going to be a good manager. So if they are able to, should I say,
trick a bit
for Arbeloa, or should I say for Xabi Alonso? Hold on. If they are able to tweak a bit for Xabi Alonso and Arbeloa, is it still not possible that they can still, shift to Africa?
So let me get you right. Let me get your argument right here now. And so every secretary has a merit to enter there as an interim manager, not an head coach. Is that what we are trying to establish?
Be it as it may, let him assume that position.
Okay.
At this point, I think I just have to, as ridiculous as it sounds, but let's just leave that.
Sure.
Okay, you've heard the point of the two gentlemen in the house, and you've also heard the parts that are pointless. But that notwithstanding, we will still let the conversation continue. We'll be right back after this short break because there's still a lot to talk about. There is another issue to discuss in the next few minutes. You don't want to miss this. Stay tuned. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to the Afia Sports, the Afia Sports Banter Box on Afia TV. Oh, of course, Joy is here on this wonderful Thursday. The Afia TV show, that's the Afia Sports Banter Box on Afia TV. Frequencies are still the same, channel 254 DSTV, channel 17 Go TV, and channel 748 Free TV. We had fun in the first half of the show when we were talking about the issue of Eric Chelle and the merits and demerits of him aspiring to become the first African to manage the mighty Real Madrid. But now we switch focus to what's going down. In Europe, particularly in England, where there's not much joy. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. The managerial trapdoor is very, very busy. It has been busy this season with nothing less than 7 to 8 managerial casualties across board. But one club in particular has been responsible for 3 of those managerial casualties so far this season. A club in the Midwest, in the Midlands of England, talking about Nottingham Forest, began this season with Nuno Espirito Santos as the manager. We know how that ended. And then, of course, the one who always wins a title in the second season, Ange Postecoglou, fresh from his winning exploits, his Europa League winning exploits with Tottenham Hotspur, found himself in Nottingham Forest. But before anybody could settle down and bring out the popcorn and enjoy the ride, he was off. And then, of course, the third manager was the former Burnley manager, the man who I call the Minister of Defense, that can pack buses upon buses upon buses and will always celebrate a goalless draw like it's winning the championship. Referring to none other than Sean Dyche. After the goalless draw that he secured, a point he secured recently, he was showing the door rather, giving his marching orders, referring to Sean Dyche. And it brings to question, now, of course, major focus on Nottingham Forest, but other managerial casualties. Thomas Frank, just a couple of days ago, of Tottenham Hotspur, got himself sacked, maybe because of his secret Arsenal admiration. Maybe that's what some people will say. And other managers have lost their jobs. Enzo Maresca went on to Pastors New, and Liam Rossini came in his place. You look at this man too, Ruben Amorim
as well.
also left his managerial position in Manchester United. And you have Michael Carrick in his second missionary journey in Man United. And to mention but a few, different managers have left different clubs. And people are now wondering between now, February, and May, who is next? That's just the question. Who else is going to join the managerial trapdoor? And we're going to discuss this right now because, first of all, we're going to say this, particularly about Nottingham Forest. After the recent sack of Sean Dyche, are Nottingham Forest shooting themselves in the foot? Now, why we're selecting Nottingham Forest? Because their case is very peculiar. Evangelos Marinakis, and of course, his director of football, Edu, former Arsenal director of football, don't seem to be getting things right as they should. They're a bit clueless. We don't even know what's happening. Because one of the keys to success in football is stability, managerial stability. You need to stick to a manager and then stick to his philosophy. If you sack him before you can say Jack Robinson, somebody else comes in and then the players get confused and they try to start adapting to that new manager. Now you can imagine what Taiwo Awoniyi, because that's my pain, Taiwo Awoniyi and Ola Aina are going through, our Nigerian brothers, because they are in Nottingham Forest, trapped in the purgatory that is called Nottingham Forest, the forest ground, the evil forest. So how do we solve this problem? Are Nottingham Forest shooting themselves in the foot? That's the main question. You can actually spread out to other teams that refuse to have patience with managers and trust the process. So I'm going to start this time around. First of all, I want to thank the man himself who was here, Divine Onwuka, the divinator, for his role in the first part of the Banter Box. And I want to welcome a regular here, our dear lady herself, Queen Chioma Chikeze.
Yeah, I was enjoying that first edition of the Banter Box. Let me use that word now, and it was quite funny. Yeah, maybe divinator that I've actually not seen what he has divined or divinated.
This one is a not so bullet again.
Times. Anyways.
Okay, so
but it's nice to be here for this very one.
Likewise. And then of course, the man who knows where he has failed and where he has succeeded. Let's not get to that.
Cannot make sacrifices for his team to win games. Anyways.
I am only a priest. A priest is just there to...
Okay.
Don't let me call you a false prophet. Okay, so let's talk about this. We have just a few minutes. We have 5 minutes. So let's talk about this very, very quickly. First of all, let's start from you. Does it seem as though Nottingham Forest have shot themselves in the foot? They have a rich pedigree. And they want to try they were away from the Premier League for such a long time.
Yeah.
It took 23 years for them to return. 23, 24 years to return. Because last time they were in the English Premier League, it was 1999. They got relegated. They were battling through the wilderness of the lower leagues and found themselves get back. Steve Cooper, the Welshman, got them back in. But they had a successful first season. This season has not been so successful. But now you're looking at 3 managers that have left, and we're waiting for a 4th manager to come in, who will probably be looking over his shoulder. Have they shot themselves in the foot? What exactly are they doing wrong, if they're doing anything wrong? Or do you support this managerial inconsistency, this knee-jerk reaction when it comes to managers?
Well, I don't support. I think, like you said, they've shot themselves on the foot. It's not something, okay, maybe quite debatable, but not, it's obvious because, I mean, you do not churn out 3 managers in one season and you expect that team would still be a fighting team or a competing team. Why would I say that? You look at Steve Cooper, brought them back to the Premier League, was trying to build a stable team, and all of those trying to gather up players and all era, and they decided, oh no, we don't want you anymore. Let him go. Brought in, I think, Nuno Espirito Santos, who actually, now look at the thing why I said they are shooting themselves on the foot. It's like you were saying something when you were introducing this topic. Like, it looks like these people don't even know what they're doing. The style of Steve Cooper, his approach to games, his tactics and everything, his philosophy is totally different from what Nuno brings to the table. Now you bring Nuno, he's there, he's trying his best to stable this ship, he's trying to get the result. I think they were doing well in the Europa League, and all of a sudden, because you felt like, oh, the man who won the last edition of the Europa Cup is in the market, being Ange Postecoglou. Oh, we have to, because people were talking, oh, a club need to get him now before it's too late, blah, 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 boom. You sack Nuno, although there are underground issues of transfer activities between himself and the club owners, which is something that Nottingham Forest have in common with Tottenham Forest. Not Tottenham. I want to call it
Tottenham Forest, because those ones are also an evil forest.
I mean, these 2 clubs have so much in common. Like, you have issues with the kind of managers you bring in. I don't know if you don't have ambition, because you say something different and your approach to actually achieve what you have put out
For
there.
For point
is
of clarity,
different.
Tottenham don't do trophies.
Okay.
But they just did last season. But
It was a fluke.
I
Sure.
guess. But
So,
it's in that. Anyway,
you
go
know,
ahead.
move on to, grab Ange Postecoglou and bring him to the club, and it was disaster, because that's a different kind of coaching again to what we already have or what we're bringing. So all of this is, you're confusing the people at the receiving end are the players. They are the players, because imagine, they're making coaches rich, wealthy anyway.
Okay.
Because imagine how much they're going to spend.
Yeah, no problem. So,
Settling this
as far as the players are concerned, and even ourselves, confused, Garima.
I'm
So
telling you.
now, Emeka, please, just let's round off this matter now. Your thoughts, just a rebuttal of this. Because,
You have merit to what you're saying, but we have to look at it from this angle. Nottingham Forest are a team who just came back to the Premier League not too long ago. They are trying to build a stability in the league. They're trying to keep themselves relevant. They're not there to win the Premier League. They're not there yet. They're not there to challenge for the FA Cups or the Champions Leagues.
Yeah.
They're there to find stability in the Premier League, of which now they've not been able to do that. So until they can find a stability,
They were at the
system.
Europa League last season.
yeah, they were.
And they are
They
still-
can such success come out, but until they can find a stable system before you talk about
So
having a
churning
stable.
coaches are the.
You have to try here
stable.
and there. Test everything before you're sure of what is good for you.
Well, I don't think that will work for Nottingham Forest. That's the sincere truth, because
Okay.
who is in the market? Who is a credible manager that want to go and manage Nottingham Forest?
it's
okay.
Except maybe they'll come and employ you anyways.
Please
I
don't.
am a good
Please,
manager.
you wish them terrible. Please, for
I am a
for
good
all intents and purposes, I'm not even going to endorse that. For the safety of Nottingham Forest and Emeka,
I'm just
I don't
waiting for
want
the phone call.
PTSD.
Just a phone call, yeah.
that phone call will not come in Jesus' name.
Straight to London here.
And here you go.
No, don't wreck a club that has so much riches.
I mean, Fabrizio could just announce it by midnight. Here we go.
Fabrizio will then become
Yeah, we
fab if
know.
that happens. Okay, I think that's the size of the package. Well, we're out of time right now. We can't really talk about that. But to each his own, whether it's Eric Chelle, you can dare to dream, but you have to prepare to bring that dream to reality, to fruition. And then, of course, Nottingham Forest, you're the one that knows your issue.
Real
You know what you're
Madrid
doing, you don't know what's doing you. Anyway, all the
Real
same.
Madrid is joining the confused club.
No problem. Let's watch and see how that happens. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much, Emeka,
Thank
for
you
what
for
you do.
having me.
Thank you, Queen, very much. We appreciate you.
Nice being here.
Divine, also behind the scenes, thank you for what you did in the first part of the show. And then, of course, I appreciate the floor manager extraordinaire, Tobe himself, the man. And then, of course, Goodness, you're doing a wonderful job. Thank you very much for what you do behind the scenes. And everybody that's in the MCR and PCR Peace out, Chiamaka. Oh, you swipe very well, like everybody does. Thank you very much for what you do there. And Chidera, thank you for your contributions. We really appreciate you. And then, of course, Rising, the man that is rising. Let me say auto rising so that I can sink in. If you know, you know. We'll do this again tomorrow by 5 p.m. on the Afia Sports Preview Square. Till then, remain blessed. I'm Sisi the Rabbi, signing out.